Welcome to the second season of the Resilient Tourism Podcast. This time, we've invited world-renowned digital tourism experts to share their views and encourage everyone to participate in the data-driven digital transformation of the travel sector. This podcast is created with the support of the InnoSwiss-funded flagship Resilient Tourism and is produced by EHL Hospitality Business School. Enjoy!
All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Maggie Chen, and I'm excited to host Alexei from Booking.com in today's episode. Let's go straight to the point. Alexei, can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Alexei Matouchkine. I'm regional director with Booking.com. I'm responsible for managing our teams that are based in local offices. These are teams called local partner services. So it's literally account managers, key account managers, their team leaders, and so on that deal with accommodation providers, so with the hotels directly. So they work with hotels across Northern, Central, and Eastern Europe. That's the region that I'm responsible for, to check with hotels, with accommodation providers, whether they're happy with us, whether we can do more business together, whether we can sign up more hotels, and basically all the collaboration that is done on that supply side of our marketplace.
Excellent. It sounds very impressive because I can assume that when you describe the territory, it's huge. It's huge responsibility.
Yeah. It is quite a big territory, I need to say. And first of all, it involves quite a lot of travel. That's there, obviously, because we have offices across this whole region. It's 34 countries. It's also very diverse in terms of languages, currencies, cultures. So it's indeed quite an interesting market to be responsible for.
Yes. Now we want to know a little bit more about you. Can you tell us something unexpected about you that make you proud?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I wouldn't know where to start. But I guess relevant to our discussion, as you might have heard as well, I speak French, although I have a very Russian name. My mom's French. I was born in Siberia with a French mom, and she's still there. I was born and raised in Siberia. But I learned French with my mom. Basically, it was my mother tongue. And I kept that ongoing. So I speak French to my daughter, which wasn't necessarily obvious in the beginning because my wife is Russian. We met in Germany. We live in the Netherlands right now. So there's a lot of languages around. But I stick to French when speaking to her. And I'm very proud to see that now she picked it up and she also speaks French to other people. So I'm very proud of that.
Excellent. I can see your smile. Really, it's a proud father. Excellent.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Excellent. So now let's talk about business. I have in front of me a list of questions to ask you. Okay. However, let's see where this chat will take us. First, this podcast talks about digital transformation of the travel and tourism sector. Could I have your definition of digital transformation and why it matters to the travel sector?
Yeah. It's an important question. I'm not sure you've heard that term before. Probably you have, but there was a term coined recently around the biggest trends that are actually driving the change in the next years, which are sustainability and digitalization. It's not necessarily only in travel, but in travel, it's very, very relevant. So sustainability and digitalization are these two mega trends, and they're called the twin transition because they are kind of interconnected, right? It's easier to make sustainable choice when you do this choice digitally, and the other way around. Digital economy and digital energy generally requires quite a lot of energy choices that needs to be done in a sustainable way. So you cannot, and also the choices that every traveler has to make, whether it is to fly or to drive or whether to pick an accommodation that provides with sustainable options is also easier to be done when you have a digital, catalog or an options to choose from.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes, I want to say that, actually what you said about digitalization and sustainability, those two are also Swiss tourism's goal. And this was really, of course, the pandemic make this even more important. But I know that, Booking.com actually, on the customer side of interface, you also have something about helping the travelers to make sustainable choice. Can you tell us a little bit? Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, by the way, I can tell you about the Swiss specifically because we did a European barometer in 2022, which was done end of year, where we interviewed over thousands of properties, of hotels, responsible managers and owners in different countries across Europe, and Switzerland was one of them. So it was very well represented with over 80 participants in that survey. And we asked them about their business, their challenges that they face, how positive do they feel about the future, how prepared do they feel. And actually, Switzerland didn't do so bad in terms of answering those questions and being confident about the future. Generally, the tourism after COVID, the tourism industry in Switzerland is doing really well. And sustainability actually showed up in one of the top 5 challenges that the business currently face. There's energy costs, acquiring, retaining staff. You can probably relate to that as well. Cost of staff generally, cost of inputs and services, and sustainability. But they still feel, at least over half of Swiss accommodations, feel they are well prepared for digital transformation and sustainability. But yes, it is a global trend. It's not only Switzerland or Europe specifically. With regards to what Booking does, yes, we do feel as a major actor, or as an important actor in this area, in travel area, we do feel the responsibility, we do feel the accountability for leading the way. So there's a few ways we do it. We also are trying to lead by example in reducing our carbon emissions. So we put ourselves a target of being at net zero by 2040, which is more ambitious than the European Union ambitions of 2050, but we're on our way. We also use only renewable energy. We just in the process of moving to new central office, which is going to be very much focused on sustainability efforts. But more importantly, you asked about the customer facing part. And indeed, we launched. So what actually where it started? Why do we do that? I'll just give a bit of a background because you already know, but maybe not all the listeners have heard of it. What happened is that there's a lot of demand. So a lot of people already are looking for sustainable options, but are not sure how and where to find them. So there's 38% of people that are already actively looking for sustainable choices, but 56% don't really know where to find this information. Usually they would book more sustainably if they knew where to find it. Sometimes it's linked with a concern about the cost of it, because sometimes they feel people associate sustainable choices with cost choices. But still, we know that this is definitely something that is coming from the customer already. And on the other side, we know that on the accommodation side, 74% of the accommodation providers already have implemented some kind of sustainability practices, but only 33% actively communicated it to the guests. So there's a missed opportunity there in how do you market yourself? How do you show that you're actually doing, a lot of gestures, a lot of important moves towards, making the world a better place and making sure that there is actually a world worth experiencing in the future. So that's where we step in, because we have this possibility to showcase on a bigger scale to millions of guests across the world what are accommodation providers doing. So we launched a badge, indeed, a sustainability badge with different levels that accommodation providers can get in case they fulfill some of the requirements. If they have some of the if they do comply with sustainability guidelines and regulations and this kind of elements. So it could go all the way from having options to reuse your towels, all the way to more important things like being zero carbon emission, or like minimize the usage of spilled water, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of boxes to tick in these to get these badges. Yes, to get these badges, but once they get them, it's way more easy for a customer to see that and to stay in a more sustainable accommodation provider, and to also compare them between them, including the price, of course, because then they can see for sure if they get something for a similar price or whether this costs them more.
Yes, very good, excellent. So this involves a self-assessment process from hoteliers, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you so much, because I think that's also help hoteliers to know that what are the important things, right? The priority, what they can do, and they may be surprised about like how much they have already done. And as you mentioned,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You say that basically already more than 70% of them have already done that, but they just don't communicate to the customers. So you are helping them to communicate to customers.
Correct. Absolutely.
Exactly. Excellent. Excellent. Now, can we ask you another question is about digital transformation at booking.com.
Mm-hmm.
So what is booking.com doing for digital transformation for the travel and tourism industry, in addition to the example you just gave before?
Yeah. Of course. So let me start with what is actually digital transformation, right? What do we mean usually when we talk about that? And that, there's probably a lack of consistency across the board in what we talk about, because, when I work at an online travel agency, or when I work in this industry, or where you work in similar companies, or where you are actually deeply involved in that, you might have the impression that it's already old news and, everyone's digital for 10 years already. It's actually not necessarily true. And we know that, we still face every now and then, sometimes hoteliers and big providers sometimes that still have a book and still have, a very, very brick and mortar, very old school approach in how to manage their business. And that works for them, but they probably miss out on certain opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. So it starts there. It starts with a daily digitalization, usage of computers, usage of tools, usage of those software, usage of websites, and so on. And of course, you also need your personnel to be trained to use that, because it's not enough to just buy an off-the-shelf solution. You also need to be able to use it. But stuff like a property management system or a channel manager are already next level, but are extremely helpful for that business. Now, obviously, next is marketing, the global digital marketing, a presence across the world, a presence that can be easily translated in different languages, a user-friendly website. That's all stuff that is next step. Some properties already have it quite a lot. Some don't, rely on word of mouth or offline bookings or on platforms like ours. But it is clearly something that is becoming more and more unavoidable. There's the twist to this is that it's not enough anymore, right? I think it was 10, 15 years ago, maybe they were saying that, if you're not online, you're out of business. That's already old news, right? Now you need to be mobile to be in business. You need to be social media. You need to be in business. There's plenty of things that actually are still, extremely, it moves really fast, and sometimes it takes a while to adapt, especially when you have a big property to manage. You don't necessarily have all this in mind to do a TikTok video to promote it. But still, this is something that is coming, and you can't really get away from it. The same for the apps. So everyone's doing on the smartphone. So I mentioned mobile, but it's also not only just mobile; it's also app friendly. So I can give you a few examples, but also 70% of smartphone users, they search for things to do on a trip when they are on their smartphone. Similar for restaurants, 77% of people check their restaurant's website before they go there. So you can't really avoid that.
Yeah.
Next is personalization. It is becoming more and more critical to have an approach that is personalized, that is dedicated to, we talk a lot about big data, especially these days. But what it really means is that every customer wants to feel unique. Every customer wants to feel like it's tailored for them. That specific offer, that specific room, or the specific proposal that is actually sent to him is tailored to his needs, to what he is, to what he identifies with, to where he stayed last time. So it goes all the way as a hotel can also dedicate an email or an offer specific to the birthday of the person, because they know there's the basics of personalization. Of course, it goes further. That's what we do a lot. For example, when we know the patterns of what the guest usually books. If he usually books 5-star hotels, we probably will not show him a lot of hostels in his search results when he searches next time. Then, of course, chatbots. A lot of people talk about chatbots these days. We need to take it. I don't want to say carefully, but there's a lot of things to say about it. But what is clear, it's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift that is not only allowing around the clock presence, stuff that not necessarily is human to do in the time that is allocated to this, but it's also reducing costs. It definitely does reduce a lot of costs. Operating costs can be cut by 30% with the use of this kind of technology, and people do use chatbots on a regular basis. So especially for basic stuff, for stuff which you don't necessarily need some human interaction with. I don't think, and coming up a bit to one of your questions, I don't think that this kind of completely replace humanity in interactions. I think people still need human touch points, and yet for some operational things like a check-in in an airline, you definitely don't need to talk to someone. You just need a quick solution. One last trend on a bigger scale of digitalization is virtual reality. That's going a bit above and beyond, but yes, it's more and more popular, especially with a specific accommodation that boasts an impressive view or some specific design, that they have virtual pre-visit. You basically can use, virtual reality to take a tour of the property before you get in. And it's interesting because some people say, oh, it can replace travel. No, it doesn't. It doesn't replace travel. It just gives you a glimpse of it. It just excites you even more to go there. It doesn't replace it.
I agree with you. I also believe that virtual reality basically, they give you some feeling, but I do not believe it will replace travel. I agree with you with what you said about personalization. We could do it, and that's part of a digital transformation, because there's no point for customers to basically have been to your place before or, done business with you and then have to teach you again and again. We should be able to use technology to
Absolutely.
learn. So thank you very much. Excellent. So now my next question is, do you have one specific example of one achievement that you are proud of in your business?
Before we go there, I just wanted to come. I mean, it's going to be kind of an answer to both questions in a way, but I wanted to come back because you asked me before, what does booking do in terms of digitalization? And I gave you a bit of a bigger trends. I didn't mention what we do specifically. And what I want to focus on a bit is the impact of online travel agencies, actually. So what does digitalization mean for hotel distribution strategy? Because it's always the same. You've got 200 rooms. You need to sell them somehow. And if you're not digital, well, you can only count on your regular clients, your corporate sales, your walk-ins, your phone bookings. But more and more, you need to also base yourself on digital trends. What's interesting, especially, and Switzerland is a good example because it's a very international market, right? It's not only filled by a local Swiss people. It's a lot of international demand, and for that, hotels need to be seen. For that, hotels needs to be seen in a global scope, a global audience. So that means using search engines to market yourself, have a website in multiple languages, ideally have customer support in multiple languages because something can go wrong and someone can call someone from, I don't know, South Korea or Chile or whatever wants to go to Switzerland. If they go on the website and the website, well, Switzerland is a good example. You already have at least 3 languages, but there's probably no Spanish or Korean in there. So that's also where booking steps in, because not only do we do the whole marketing on Google and all the other search engines, but also we translate in 44, I think, different languages. I lost count. And obviously we also have 24 hours customer support, which helps them in the way, when with whichever issues they have. The other thing that we do, and that is valued a lot with our guests, is the reviews, right? This is one of the most important part about online, because you need to have trust, right? It's way more easy to trust someone that you met physically than when you see it on a web page. So that's where reviews come in. And our reviews are, as you know, fully, it's only people that stayed at the hotel. It cannot be different. Stayed or had an experience at that hotel. So you cannot randomly, as in some other website, just come and write a review about it. This is not possible. So this is all checked. And we have I also lost count, but hundreds of millions of reviews of these hotels and accommodation providers. And interestingly, I was just checking a stat. 54% of customers agree that online customer reviews are their main criteria when they book accommodation. So not only do we collect them, but we also translate them. And interestingly, coming back to our previous discussion, sometimes it's done by robots, because sometimes when we need to translate from Tagalog to Turkmen language, we don't have necessarily all the specialists for translating all the reviews. So it's being done automatically, and then sometimes it is being checked by people. But these reviews are being translated automatically, and is done more and more, better and better with the help of chatbots, artificial intelligence, and all this. So it all comes together. Then, of course, it's better for their yield management, because they can distribute way better in between those channels, and it usually allows them to never have an empty room. Obviously, it still can happen, but that's what basically is the most common use case, I guess, of online travel agencies, where you would use it as a last minute booking option, because there's a lot of people that use last minute, and for that they're usually on their phone and they just go on a website like ours to have options. Interestingly, we did commission a study on that, and there is finally written confirmation and calculations from independent experts and researchers that online travel agents are creating incremental demand. They're not just, there's a lot of sometimes debate around, do we actually take demand from somewhere else? But we actually do create incremental demand. So there's the confirmed numbers are that, especially pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, we haven't had these calculations yet. But pre-pandemic 2019, out of the 2.2 billion room nights booked in Europe, 11% or 134 million would not have taken place if online platform did not exist. So it's an 11% incrementality. It's really powerful. And of course, there's always a billboard effect, right? I mean, you see the hotel name on booking. Maybe you haven't booked it, or maybe you have, but next time you remember the hotel name and maybe you book directly. And this is fair. This is okay. This is what we also, this is also part of our offer. We don't mind that. This is something that is between the hotel and the guest. We used to say our mission is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world. So we make travel easier, but the hoteliers makes it unforgettable.
I like it. OTA make it easier, and the hoteliers make it unforgettable. This one is really good. Yes,
that's right.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
Thank you so much. And so now, well, you briefly mentioned about that, but we are so concerned because at the EHO Hospitality Business School, we really believe in the human interaction, social connection. So basically, the broad field of travel is built on person-to-person relationships. However, because of the pandemic and the industry labor shortage, companies use more technology to conduct repetitive transactions. For example, self-check-in, check-out, mobile keys, and chatbot, and some robots even. So do you think there is any tension concerning digital transformation and the human-centric nature of travel?
Well, I just said that, right? The hoteliers makes it unforgettable. They make it unforgettable because there is a human interaction. I mean, maybe some people get super excited by robots, but that's, it's more of a gimmick. Like you saw it one time and then next time you're like, okay, there's a robot. No, it's interesting. I can give you an example, a real example that happened to me recently. So it's a restaurant in Amsterdam that we went to with colleagues for an event. And they had these robots that were delivering the food trays. Like the food was served there afterwards by servers, so by real people. But around the restaurant, it was little robots on wheels that would carry around these trays with food. That was cool for a second. And we looked at them, maybe we took some pictures. But then, unfortunately, the people who were taking our orders, delivering our drinks and food and so on, were actually not super nice. I'm not saying the name of the restaurant, but they were quite rude. And that's what actually killed the experience for us completely. So, and we discussed it between us because we all work in this business, right? In hospitality. And we were thinking, okay, they have robots, really cool, to do some operational stuff. But that's exactly where you need to have really, really good interaction with the people that you actually have an interaction with. So the servers, or the waiters. That's why they can shine and, do the best out of this interaction if they don't have to do the dishes because the washing machine does it. That's how it all should work. And I'm confident that's will, that's where it goes. I think it's great that we have, and it's not the first time in history that we have automatization happening. And what it does, that it brings time and freedom and opportunity to have more and more personal, more deep interaction. We can talk more and longer to the person on the reception and about other stuff than what's the name on the passport if you had an online check-in. Now you can explore more of the city because you can ask her more about what's her favorite restaurants, for example. So no, I'm really not too worried about that. I think this is a trend that actually is positive because it goes towards cutting unnecessary and repetitive tasks, as you said, and freeing up more time for us to do what matters and to make it unforgettable.
Excellent. This is what we at the EHL Hospitality Business School believes. But it's really good that the way you describe it. And so now we are going to ask you another question. It's really a reflection about the pandemic. During the pandemic, many countries closed their border. And after the pandemic, when the population gained some immune system, now people are traveling again. But we know that, in the future, we probably will see another disaster or crisis. And we want to say that, what can the tourism industry learn from the pandemic experience and prepare for the next crisis? Specifically, how can digital transformation through data supporting systems develop tourism resilience?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to answer that one because it's a vast question, and I'm not sure I would be focused on data here. It was clearly a huge blow for the travel industry, right, and for all of us in it, and yet we made it because most of the companies that were there made it. I haven't seen massive bankruptcies in airlines or in hotel industries that were linked directly with pandemic. There were a few, but they were not necessarily linked with pandemic straight away. So whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? I mean, we have this experience now. I can tell for booking, we definitely we were definitely very worried back in April 2020 or May 2020, where we saw our volumes dropping 90%, of course. And we didn't really know where to go, where it was going to happen. Well, our CEO kept saying he's going to pass. I've seen pandemics. It will go away. Well, it did eventually. It just took like 2 years longer than we initially thought, probably. But it happened, and now it's finally away. What we did then is, first of all, we quite quickly we decided not to completely cut, for example, our marketing costs. So we kept investing in marketing at a much lower scale, but it helped us to identify what the behavior was of those guests that still book in the pandemic. And especially since we have a global footprint, we could see, some countries did not do lockdowns at all, like Sweden. Some countries went much faster and were more open, to the virus. And some countries went full lockdown, like China, that just only recently came back. So we were actually interestingly learning one country after the other. Okay, this is probably what's going to happen. This is the kind of pattern that it takes. So we were able to prepare ourselves both on the marketing side with getting the demand, and also on the supplier side, telling them, look, demand is coming back or will come back probably soon. So be ready to open your availability and so on. So keeping ourselves aware, even during these difficult times, was crucial. And it helped us because when travel recovered, we already had a lot of information about how it changed, because it did change a bit, right? We had different booking windows. People would book at least like either very much in advance or very last minute, and way more free cancellation options than before, because they had this experience of having to cancel a trip that they planned due to the pandemic. So there was this. There was the length of stay effect. So there's quite a different patterns in the guests' behavior during pandemic, pre-pandemic, and after pandemic. So, but we already had this information. So I think that's what we learned to, stay low, but keep playing whatever happens. It also prepared us better in generally business continuity and crisis management. I can tell you that I was deeply involved in the pandemic, but I was even more deeper involved in the start of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, and I was in Moscow at the time. And that was already also a massive crisis, of course. And we were much more ready in our internal setup, in setting up a crisis group, setting up responsibilities, the right stakeholders, the right decision, the right communication to partners and to guests, and where to have a force majeure circumstances starting off, so that when our guests calls us and say, I have to cancel my travel to Ukraine, yes, of course, we already have all the guidelines and it's already solved. So, and for our partners, what I think is beautiful, I think it is an impact, a side impact of the pandemic, is that people are a bit more ready for the unexpected, and also a bit more kind to each other. And I can refer here to the refugee rate that we built together with our partners and our accommodation providers, where we created the opportunity on our website for partners to have either free or very heavily reduced rates for refugees traveling from Ukraine into countries of Eastern Europe or Central Europe and so on. So that's something that we were able to do very, very quickly because we built that muscle during the pandemic. So I'm actually positive. I don't want a new crisis to happen, but I think whenever they happen, we will be more ready and more resilient when facing it.
I really want to say thank you because I really like the way you give us the answer, because crises are unavoidable, but you are able to address this issue in a very positive and human way. It's like, there's always going to be crisis, but then, we believe in our ability. And as you mentioned, it's unexpected because people are actually kinder to each other during a crisis. So I really appreciate the way you answer the question. And I really want to say that thank you so much for your time and your valuable insight. I know that our audience will be so happy to listen to your opinions and insights. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please spread the word and share it with your colleagues, friends, and family. To make sure you don't miss the latest episodes, subscribe to our channel.